Yes.
Thank success.
I feel successful.
How do you feel post game? Do you feel like those questions were randomized enough?
Yes, there was somewhere I was just like, it was just like short in the dark.
It's a guess. I mean,
It's
what
a
about the
guessing
Wyoming
game.
one? The two escalators.
Oh,
How could
what
you
you-
possibly guess
what
that?
do you- how did you guess
I don't
I
know.
feel like I've heard it somewhere before. Like someone was like, because that's like a fact. Like, oh yeah, 2 escalators is
Two
hilarious.
escalators in Wyoming.
And also just no one lives there. So like,
Yeah?
I don't know.
I mean, fair enough.
Lucky
I
guess.
genuinely thought the Queen Elizabeth one was a weird question because technically she does own anything in the sea.
yeah.
right.
But the reason why I mentioned that is because the weird fact is that she does own all whales, sturgeons, and dolphins.
Yeah.
And
Just all
the sea.
whales, sturgeons.
All of them that
Yeah.
fall in the. I mean, technically, if you see it, it does make
She
sense.
could make a lot, because you know, out of sturgeons comes caviar. Another
Yeah.
random fact.
That's true.
Is that true?
Yeah,
should
I
have
don't
asked
know.
that
Is
as a
that true?
question.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
So
thank
she'll be
you.
making a lot of bank on fish.
What about the unicorn one with Scotland? I mean, you knew that one. I
Yeah.
could see it.
Yeah.
Because do all countries have an animal? Because I mean, Holland's have got the lion.
I don't know Italy's
and
animal.
Yeah.
America's is the bald
I was
eagle.
gonna say corruption, but
Oh yeah, it
Yeah,
is actually
but
the eagle.
I do know that like Benjamin Franklin wanted it to be the turkey for the U.S.
but then it turned out to be the bald eagle,
Yeah.
which is like the symbol of freedom and
Yeah.
yeah.
Just kind of
With the
fine,
Serbian flag on it doesn't do justice.
Oh my God.
What about the net worth questions? That's one that intrigued me. Which one of the net worth questions threw you off the most, do you feel? Do you guys need a reminder of which ones were what?
Yeah, I want to say Kylie Jenner's because I don't know. I feel like I would say Kim Kardashian has more money than her, but yeah, I guess not.
Yeah, I think because Kylie Jenner created the makeup company, which got her above all her sisters and everything.
Yeah.
And now they're doing the show as well.
No, but they had the show before. The
Yeah,
makeup
yeah.
company,
But they're
Yeah.
really releasing on like Hulu or something.
Oh,
because
that's
they got
true, actually,
kicked
yeah.
off, or no, not kicked off. They wanted to stop.
Well,
They
because
wanted
it
to
was not that
stop on.
prolific.
No.
Yeah.
What about Rihanna? $550 million of net worth? That sounds like nothing.
I
when
thought
you-
she was worth more. Yeah.
See, honestly, I
I
don't
don't
even think about these figures. We have to get there first. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
And then we
we're
can
gonna
talk
be
about it.
able to.
You know, the one that threw me off in particular when I was making the script, the one that threw me off the most was the difference between Kanye and Drake. So Drake has only $150 million.
Wait,
Notice
actually,
you know
I
what?
just
That
said
surprises me.
150.
That surprises me.
Only
Yeah.
$150
I mean, that's still a
million,
shit
still a
ton.
lot.
which is an abundant amount. However,
Yeah.
then you think that Kanye has $1.3 billion.
Exactly. But it's also because he
Yeah,
differentiates.
there are
it.
Yeezys
Yeah,
in this
yes.
room at this current moment in time.
Yeah, yeah, it's the Yeezys. I
Is
mean,
the Yeezys in your opinion?
no, I think Kanye's been like a big staple of American media and like music for a while, and he produces for a lot of people still. So like, he's making money.
And he's also differentiating into different kind of industries.
Yeah, he's
like
got
the whole-
clothing.
I mean, he found God, and then he actually like
Thank God
he
he found
expanded.
God. He was
I mean,
lost.
yeah, but he's really gone into that. And I even saw like at one point his music kind of changed as well. Didn't he release an album where it was almost gospel like music?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
think so. I
His
don't
his
wanna,
most recent
I need
one
to
is
fact check here.
called Jesus is King.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's pretty
exactly.
self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I mean that, like, yeah, he did find God, but his message did it shift? Because I saw him wearing MAGA hats all of a sudden, and
Yeah,
then boom, he was a number one Trump supporter.
I'm a big fan of old Kanye. I know that's like he made that whole thing with Life of Pablo. I miss the old
Yeah.
Kanye. Yeah, whatever. But I mean, he went through some shit like years ago with his mom, and I think that's what probably set him off. I don't know if you know about that.
No,
but
if you
yeah, his cousin was a doctor, and she had to do some sort of like breast reduction surgery, and afterwards, like he had to go to tour somewhere and left her behind with that doctor, and she choked on her own vomit in her sleep and passed away. And Kanye, after that, like continued to blame himself for that, and I think that really set him down the path he is today, where he's just not. I don't know, because there's a noticeable difference between
There is.
before and after, and like, I don't know.
'Cause I didn't even see a lot of interviews from before, but like when I look at him now, I saw like an interview recently. Not recently, it wasn't recent, but it was like he went on a news kind of. He went on a
Broadcasting
news
agency.
broadcasting agency,
Yeah.
and he was having an interview, and then all of a sudden he just like he spoke up, but like you could see that he had like a vision. He had like this God complex,
Yeah.
but what he was saying, he actually believed was real, and you could see like all the people surrounding him. They were like, Like, what is this
Yeah.
guy saying, you know? To the point where someone actually had to stand up and be like, yo, you know, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
I know
Like-
exactly
Yeah.
which interview
Yeah.
you're talking about, and the thing is, it was even more powerful because in a room of like white people filming this interview,
yeah.
the one person of color had to stand up and go
Exactly.
against Kanye
Yeah.
because what he was saying was against his own
Yeah.
like. And that to me was like that interview was like the moment in which you can pinpoint that Kanye had this God complex.
Yeah.
Finding God is better than having a God complex in my mind, but I think it's like, I don't know, I'd rather have someone look up to God than look up to themselves,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or else you end up having a second Trump.
Yeah.
Right? You think every decision
he was
you
running
make-
I mean,
for
can you
presidency.
blame him though for like coming up with a God complex?
No,
Because like
absolutely not.
the way that the media portrays him in the U.S. is like a god, or not
so,
now,
so is
but
Drake though. I'm
True.
not gonna lie. Drake
True.
is like, did you guys see that video of him just going like he's at a club and someone's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
who invited you? And he's
Yeah.
like, do you know who
Myself.
I am? Like I get that. I get that when you're famous and you deserve it, especially because of your work, you know, you feel like you have the right to be known by people,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
your whole entire livelihood is kind of molded around this concept of people's perception of you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, but you're an actor, you're supposed to behave like this. Oh, you're a musician, you're pushing this idea, you're never supposed to swear or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it's like, you know, you either take the good out of it and the bad out of it, or you take neither. So if
Yeah.
you can't get recognized at a club, I guess it can be annoying.
No,
But you
getting
shouldn't assume
But
that
you know, you
people
should also
need to
stay
know.
humble. That's also important.
Yeah,
But you know
getting
what?
famous sucks.
I have no experience with like becoming famous or
Especially, I
rising.
mean, having $150 million in assets is pretty
That's,
admirable.
I mean, that's
I
still a
mean,
lot.
Damn.
From a guy who was on Degrassi, I mean, like that's where he started. Like he was like he's made some moves, I guess.
I mean, okay, to be completely real, the reason why I started the thing with Joe Rogan's network is because Joe Rogan is considered by many to be the founding, not really the founding father of podcasting, but definitely a founding figure
Yeah.
in the business.
Sure.
And he really monetized it to a successful degree where successful podcast hosts such as Ethan Klein, also known as the H3 Productions
Yeah.
or H3H3, he makes, his net worth is $20 million.
Oh.
And to me, he's a great podcast host, and I consider him even better than Joe Rogan.
Mm.
However, he has 1/5 of the network of Joe Rogan,
yeah.
regardless of his previous existence on the platform.
Yeah.
So to me, that dictates. It's like once you're in a ring of people who have that certain, like, you know, that publicity and also the assets. Because let's be real, he did smoke a blunt with Elon Musk
Elon Musk, bro.
on air.
That
See,
is.
that
But there's
creates
a
like
lot
a
that
personal
went.
connection as well,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
'Cause
There's
like
a lot that went into it before that
Yeah.
scenario.
Yeah.
However, the vast majority of people who subscribed in the last 2 years have probably been because
Just
of that
watch that,
incident.
yeah, they watch
Yeah.
that.
It's been
stuff,
watched billions of times. And that's the thing, it's like, I guess to get to that point, you have to be already like way beyond. You have to follow your vision strictly. You have to understand
Yeah.
like, okay, this is my brand and this is what I am. However, he got to that point. He did that with Elon Musk. He rebranded and made Elon Musk even more
Yeah, he
famous
did.
because hey, he's a man of the people. He does what a lot of people are doing right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at first, when that did happen, it was seen as quite controversial for Elon Musk.
No,
because
his
apparently-
stocks plummeted.
Yeah, exactly. Like all his stocks plummeted.
Yeah.
But then, like,
It
I
went up.
guess in the long run, it kind of worked for him. You
And
know,
they also like
because-
took him off as CEO afterwards too for a while. I think
I
of
mean-
Tesla.
They suspended.
Yeah, because they were like, you can't make decisions for the company right now, and he didn't even inhale it or anything. He literally just went like that's
It's
it.
so strange, especially because it
Yeah.
is legal in the state in which it is
Yeah,
in.
no, it's still very taboo in the U.S. and only now have like more states started to legalize it and everything like that.
I feel like that's a huge revenue stream.
Oh yeah,
Especially in the
Gigantic.
US,
Did you guys see
bro.
the first months that the
Yeah.
cannabis was legalized in Cali? They had to import weed.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I mean,
because everyone just.
and there's a lot of controversy regarding it getting monetized because it's getting monetized mostly by white big business owners.
Yes.
And the people that have been subjugated and imprisoned for possessing marijuana in the past and dealing it were mostly minorities. And now there's like some programs in California designed to kind of give minorities the option to like own their own dispensaries, but it's still a big problem because, you know, people with money are gonna they have more money and more funds in order to, you know, start a whole cannabis business by themselves and get the regulations and stuff like that.
I feel like it's a gigantic
Yeah.
investment.
No.
Like the cannabis industry is like the rebirth of the tobacco industry.
Yeah.
Just this time Lucky Strike doesn't get to make 9 out of 10 doctors say that it is healthy.
Yeah.
It's like Lucky Strike did that. Now it's completely overlooked. But it was in the past, and now it's overlooked. They didn't know better.
They should implement it again.
Yeah, but
or
what,
even, you know,
what
like
would
anywhere.
people do? Because it's like according to which doctor? You
No,
saw
I
the
like the
outbreak
Lucky
of
Strike
COVID.
hacks.
Like COVID is like the day that
Yeah.
people decided it was worth media. Is the day that we had 16 different options to choose from, and then the next day it was 32, and the next day it was 50, and by the end of it is like everyone acknowledged that okay, some facts tend to stick as true
Yeah.
as they happen over time, and many people say that they're true.
Yeah.
Therefore, it is vastly more likely for them to be true. However, we don't know the whole picture. We clearly don't know the whole scheme of things. So ultimately, it's like we can't really make our own
Yeah.
selfish decision because, as we saw and as we spoke about on previous podcasts, there are riots taking place because people have different ideas.
Right.
Those different ideas are dictated by either misleading information or
Yeah.
just information
That's
that is
true.
simply portrayed. And that's the thing. I mean, you as an American, but also as an American who is now living in a European country for longer than, how is it, 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's like you have lived in the Netherlands for
yeah, 2 years about.
2 years,
I
and
guess.
you
yeah.
live. Did you ever live outside of the United States before that?
I mean, I always travel to Croatia and Serbia every year, but I never really stayed there for longer than like 2 months or something.
It's the Croatian tea, isn't it?
Yes.
I called
yes.
it Serbian before.
No.
Ooh. That's not. Because wait, what's your
It's a
connection to
little
Croatia?
controversial, buddy. I mean, my parents are from Croatia. I'm kind
Oh,
of I'm from an immigrant family. We immigrated during the Yugoslav War, which is a whole thing, and they kind of jumped between places and decided to settle down in America. And they could have chosen to settle down in New Zealand, and I kind of some part of me wishes it was New Zealand, because currently I don't know, the U.S. I love the country, and but looking back at the things I learned as I was growing up, it kind of puts it into a new light. Like I remember being 5 years old and pledging allegiance to the flag, which, you know, like back then it seemed fine. Like I was like, yeah, I love America. But the more you kind of think about it, it's like, oh, it's just a little culty. That's all I'm going to say. Where it's like, oh, you have to pledge allegiance to the flag. No one else. Don't think about the morals. Don't think about the ethics. Just follow the U.S., you know?
Kill as long as we tell you
Yeah,
to.
and I remember that I don't know, I'm a big history guy, and when I was a kid, I was really big into World War II and World War I and stuff like that, and I just remember there's like, I have a very, like, I was told by my parents that I one time, like, I was going to like a museum, and I was like, the Americans are good, the Japanese are the enemy, and I'm like, why did that, like, that's just the media, and like I don't know, like I kind of grew up learning that, like, oh, the Americans are good, you know? Never have they ever done anything bad. Every single war they start was good. The fact that they've been at war for the last 100 years is good. No, it's not. I haven't, my country has been at war for my entire life.
It's a century almost.
And, you know, before Afghanistan, you know, there was the Gulf War. Before the Gulf War, there was Vietnam and the Korean War. Before the Korean War, there was world. It's just always the
war.
business of the U.S. is war in some ways. And it's painful to admit that, because I am an American. I do have patriotism, but just every day it's giving me more reasons to, like, distance myself. That's why I choose instead to associate myself with a country of 4 million who also has their controversies and has had terrible history as well, but at least it hasn't, like, I don't know.
But how are you able to like realize that? Because you know you are an American,
It
and
took
obviously
years.
when we go, if you, like in the U.S., there's also the majority of the people, maybe, well, not the majority, but they would think the things that you just said. You know, that America's great, that
Yeah.
the wars they start, you know, have all been, well, for a reason, for a good reason.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, how are you able to kind of come out of that and kind of see it differently, or not come out of it, but how are you able to see a different perspective to all that?
I don't know. I feel like I think the number one thing that people need to do is travel. I feel like it's really hard to think of a different point of view if you're in the same place your entire life. And I don't know, I went to Europe a lot, I traveled, I saw other parts of the world, and I knew people in Serbia who really hated the U.S., and they had their reasons for it. I mean, the U.S. bombed Serbia for, you know, I think genuine good reasons, but also, you know, it's also a very hard thing
It's
to.
a high price to pay.
Yeah, it's a high price to pay because there's also innocents that were killed there, and that hurts a lot of people. And there's no right side. There's no
There's
like.
never a right
There's
side.
never 100%. Oh, I'm good. You know, and I think that over time I kind of realized that with, you know, I am not a big fan of the Iraq War. I don't think that's good. I mean, I they went in, they found no weapons of mass destruction that they were looking for, and what you killed thousands of civilians for what? Nothing. And I don't know. A lot of people will still argue that there was reasoning behind that, but ultimately I just feel like America needs to focus, especially now, focus more on themselves because for years, I mean, the Oklahoma City bombing was
Yeah.
a far right nationalist who caused that. And this has been brewing for years. Like, Trump isn't a new thing. I don't want to say that, like, people sometimes blame Trump for what's happening in the U.S. now, but he's just a byproduct of what's been happening for decades. It's just, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to admit that my country is not as like.
And do you think more people are starting to realize this
think
as well,
so.
you know, and starting to...
I don't know, because, I mean, after George Floyd, like, you have to admit that there's some problems with the institution, and, like, the culture is messed up. And, I don't know, coming here to Europe, there's just so much more openness and so much more acceptance. Of course, not everywhere. I'm not going to say that Europe is perfect, but
Definitely not.
from my experience, I just feel more free here. And like, if you look at charts of, like, global happiness and, you know, like, the wealth gap in the U.S. is so immense that, like, you can't make it if I don't know. There's always cases of people that make it from nothing, but every year it feels like it's harder and harder to do.
That's the problem, though. That ties perfectly with what I wanted to bring up is that I feel like the biggest problem with U.S. politics, or also just the lifestyle, is that everything is like hyped and everything is mediated in a way where it's like, you know, it's like, oh, this guy said this, and it's like, wow, news of the day. Meanwhile, in Oklahoma, school shooting and like all that,
I mean,
they put that in the second page, but in the first page, there's Trump's tweet.
I also this also helped me realize that, like, it wasn't a great, like, I went to school in the U.S. so
In New York, actually, which is worth mentioning.
and
for the audience.
even New York, like, which is a state and city with a lot of gun laws and stuff like that, we still had to do lockdown drills where we closed the door, locked the door, turned off all the lights, and sat in a corner the entire class. And why is that the better option than just, like, again, controversial?
No, but it's your
it
opinion,
shouldn't
it's a
be,
podcast
but
about you,
just like, I don't know, gun laws. I don't want. I'm still someone who kind of believes in the Second Amendment. I don't wanna say fully, but some people definitely need guns if they're in the middle of bumfuck nowhere and they need to like protect themselves against bears and such. But a semi-automatic gun that can kill like 50 people is just something that I can't stand behind.
There's a problem that I have personally with the idea of owning like big guns is that it's in the name, isn't it? It's in the name. It says assault rifle. If it says assault rifle, what are you assaulting? What are you doing?
No,
You're in your own
They want to
house.
make sure the deer is dead, you know?
Yeah, but like dang, like that you
Yeah,
must
I
hate
don't know.
that deer.
Yeah,
dearly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that, like, instead of doing actual like lawmaking, and I don't care if it's just they didn't do anything. Like, instead of doing that, they were just like, okay, kids, learn how to hide. Like, what? How is that the answer? I don't know. And it came to the point where whenever I heard a new school shooting, it just wouldn't faze me anymore.
That's the biggest problem.
I would hear, oh, 3 killed in Iowa State University.
It's
And-
almost normalized at one point because it happens so
and then I
often,
hear
you know?
that and I'm like, oh, at least it wasn't 50.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the way that I should be thinking about
But the
it.
problem
but
is that
that's the way it
the
turns
majority, because at the end of the day, it's like the media makes it seem as though they are quantifying the damage rather than assessing why the damage has come to
out.
be.
I don't want to be like I also think that the media is a problem in some regards because whenever a school shooting or a shooting in general occurs, it's always focused on the shooter. And, you know, that gives it some emphasis, like, oh, I'll start this in order to become famous and get myself on the news. And it's like, I don't know, Norway, I think, handles this a lot better from what I've heard. Like, they don't put the shooter on the news. And I don't know, I feel like after years and years of just so many shootings, like, you have to look outside of the country and see, like, where it works. Like, Australia had a mass shooting. They
stopped.
They stopped.
1998?
Six.
1996 was when Australia stopped
Yeah.
Any sort of law that supported gun ownership.
And, like, I don't think it's controversial to think that, like, students should be able to go to school without feeling like, you know, that they're gonna get shot.
I
Like,
mean, that's the biggest fear.
But do you
Yeah.
guys think it's like really deep into your culture almost
Yes.
at one point? Because you know it's
Yeah.
almost like they've been given no options. Like the only
Yeah.
option, especially with people who are less fortunate and who are grow up in rougher areas.
yeah.
A gun seems almost like a
Protection,
necessity to them,
yeah,
a protection, and they've learned from their
Yeah.
ancestors as well, their parents, their grandparents.
I mean, there's always the argument, like, oh, if there was a security guard with a gun, he would have stopped them.
No, that one I gotta ask you a question. Like, there was this
That's-
thing that was like, oh yeah, but it would be better if teachers had guns to defend
Yeah,
their
I
students.
remember
Like,
that.
Isn't that a warfare then?
No, then a teacher will
so-
pull out a gun when, like, a student's not listening. Like, that's the
Jesus
result.
Christ,
You're
thinking
like,
about that.
With a gun on the
It's like, you know what? Like, just pulls the
Listen,
Glock.
Jimmy, this is the last fucking time you're gonna do this, okay? Yeah, I don't
Jimmy,
know.
this is worth your knee. This is your
Jimmy.
knee right now.
This bullet has your name on it, Jimmy. Yeah, I don't know.
Jesus.
I just don't, like, I think that's the funniest thing. Like, America's solution is,
More guns.
you you got gun? The solution? More gun. I don't know. It's such like it shouldn't be controversial in my mind, but then again, I am a New Yorker who hasn't really come into contact with guns. But I don't know. I feel like it's hard to tell people that they can't do a thing that they've been doing for years, and some people have guns that are passed down through the family,
Yeah.
and to feel like that's like part of your culture that's getting taken away is also a whole thing. And I don't know.
But as a New Yorker, right? Like, you grew up in New York.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any experiences seeing guns? Like, because that's the thing.
You
In
don't
Europe,
see
I
them,
would
yeah.
never even
Well-
fantasize seeing a gun on the street. Like, if I see a gun, I'll freak out.
I mean, after
Yeah, actually, I
there
haven't
was
seen one here.
after there was like attacks in throughout the city, like terrorist attacks, and there was like a threat. I think that was after the Paris bombing or whatever. You can see like in public areas there would be like cops with full riot gear and a massive assault rifle.
Like, juggernaut.
Yeah,
type.
just standing there protecting. I don't know what they're protecting for. They're just more. It's less protection, more just like fear mongering. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you might have been having a great day and you walk down the street and you see a dude like like with a full gun just standing there, and then you're like, oh wait, is this area under threat? Am I
Yeah.
under threat right now? Yeah, I don't know.
Of an M16. Like, those are assault
Yeah,
rifles.
I
Again,
know.
like, I think that's the biggest controversy in my mind
Yeah.
as of now, is that, like, you have some people thinking that they need to be armed to the teeth. Like, you
Yeah.
have people with grenade launchers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you're like,
those guns also have grenade launchers on
Like,
them.
on the
okay,
bottom,
look,
like
if the
the attachment.
military has a grenade launcher, I'll question it less than if the
Yeah.
average Joe
Yeah.
around the corner is using an M16 like it's his
Yeah.
birthday.
Yeah.
Like, you get me? And the worst part is that as a 16-year-old, you can just go, in some states, you can go buy an Uzi.
I mean, it's in Walmart.
In
You can
Walmart!
you
No.
can
Yeah,
go
you
to
can buy guns
Walmart
in
and buy
Walmart.
guns in Walmart.
You're
Yeah.
You don't know that?
And after
You
the
can buy guns
riots,
at a Walmart.
Yes.
after the
yes.
riots, they actually pulled guns from Walmart just in case someone like robbed and looted the
Wait,
store
what you
of their
mean?
guns.
You go to the supermarket and you can buy guns.
Yeah, I mean not in like U.S. or not sorry, not in New York or like big cities, but like more in rural country. Yeah, you can.
But like it's just like the liquor section, the gun section, and then like you
Pretty
need to
much.
show in
Yeah,
16. Not
yeah,
even.
you have to just show an ID. I mean, there's
It takes it takes longer to buy a car in the U.S. than to buy an Uzi. Just know that. No joke.
Yeah.
That was his comparison.
no, and I don't know. I lived through one experience that I still think kind of sits with me, and it's kind of related in some regards because it's like a mass. I don't know. In I can't remember the exact year, but there was a bomb attack in New York, and it was in Penn Station, and I was at 42nd Street, in the train station, and I was just standing there waiting for my train in the
Doing your
morning.
thing.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, a dude comes on the intercom and says, "Everybody get out. Everybody run." And immediately panic. Everyone is running side to side as if their life depends on it, because this has been something that's been in the news so often that it's a complete reality. There's not someone standing there being like, "This isn't happening." Everyone immediately acts because they know this is very much possible.
It's possible, yeah, exactly.
And I remember I ran into an elevator just as a group of people who had no idea what the fuck was going on was coming out.
In an elevator.
Yeah, it was a terrible
That
idea.
doesn't sound like the best
But
option.
no, it was a
Yeah.
terrible idea, and I just stood there being like, "Oh fuck, this is a terrible idea." But it was because there's stairs on one side, stairs on another, and my mind went, "Okay, there's stairs that everyone's using. If a shooter's over there, he can just shoot at the stairs. I don't want to take that
Get
chance."
that multi-kill.
And I have like a moment of it's kind of funny in a way, because I just had a moment of silence as I was standing in this elevator, slowly just rising up to the top. As I look around, I just see people running for the exits.
It's so bad that it's
Yeah.
like almost obscene to even think about. It's
No,
like,
like-
I'm trying to wrap my mind around it, but it's like such a chaotic
Yeah,
setting.
and I don't know, there was people that got stuck in the door as they were like leaving, and people were yelling at them, "Get out, get out, get out, get out."
That
There's
guy's
probably no
ex-
order to this. It was everyone just...
No, everyone
Trying
just
to-
ran for themselves, and that's where also there's like the problem with like trampling people and like
Exactly, you
Yeah.
end
shit
up
like
killing
that.
people trying to save your own
Yeah,
life.
and
like,
what it turned out was that it was one guy who was trying to do like a suicide bombing, but it malfunctioned and it just exploded him. So no one else got injured. It was just him. But still, they responded to it as if there might be other attacks happening.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And I remember running out, and I just was fearing for my life. And my my reaction was to not go with the crowd and go by myself, because again, I'm thinking like 100 times a
Yeah, you
second.
can't even. It's
Just
like
that you
adrenaline.
thought
It's
that,
like
Yeah.
no
already,
one-
that's already...
yeah.
And
achievable.
I didn't know what else to do, and I go into this McDonald's, and there's this dude with a mask who's
you're like
and this was before
tapping-
masks
Yeah,
were a
yeah,
thing.
this was before COVID.
And he exits the McDonald's, throws open the door, and like shows it off to me, like, come on in. And I was like, that moment I was like, he didn't know what the fuck was going on, but I was like freaking the fuck out, because I was like, is this the guy?
Yeah, it could be,
Is
yeah.
this part of like the shooters or something? And I waited, and then I got into the McDonald's, sat down, and finished my homework for that morning, because I had nothing else I could do. And I just sat there for like 10 minutes
Your
doing my
mind was able
homework,
to function after
shaking.
that?
Yeah. And I was so scared of that I decided to just walk to school that day. And I just went to school, even though I had every right to just go home. But yeah.
I think that happens in the Netherlands. I'll be filing a complaint for
Right.
the next month of
Yeah.
my absence.
Yeah.
Like, are you mad?
And I don't know. Still, whenever I go to 42nd Street, I feel uneasy. I feel
But
like
Have you been there after?
yes, I kind of forced myself to go, because I felt like it's such a big thing that the more I stand away from it, like the harder it's gonna be to go back.
You end up idolizing it almost.
Yeah,
as
like,
an icon in
Right.
your time, as in like one
Right.
of those iconic times that
Yeah.
just stands out as a
But
terrible moment.
I don't know. I just want it to be another day, you know.
Did it
But-
turn out that way?
No, I went to school, did my whole class, and my favorite thing was I went to my first class. I was sitting down, and someone pulled out their phone and was like, "Oh shit, there was a bomb at Penn Station," and I was like, "Yeah, I was there."
Hey, what? Dude, there's a discount at Albertine and I get excited.
No.
What are we talking about?
I
Like,
don't
these
know.
people are talking about bombings and they're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it happened. Whatever.
Yeah.
Let's get back on with it.
I don't know.
But because sometimes when you walk in Holland and you walk out in the public, you're like, public, it's safe, or
Yeah,
you'd hope
yeah.
so. But then well, if you're walking in America, like the most public place ever, like do you have that feeling like
Yeah,
shit, someone
I
could gun
do.
down?
I mean, I don't know. For every single, I feel like part of me feels like this is unreasonable, but I don't know. Every time I go to a stadium for like a concert or I don't know, watching a basketball game, there's a
Whatever.
part of me that's like, there's a lot of people here. How do they know? And it's such like a terrible thing to be afraid all the time. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
There's one thing that actually about, with the stadium is like a lot of people would make the argument, but they're checked before. But that's the same thing with the Capitol riots or like the Capitol,
yeah.
what's it called, storming the Capitol.
Yeah.
Is because the thing is, all of the people in that manifestation were checked before they got anywhere close to the Capitol building. However, post-event, they found 2 bombs within the building. Now, I'm not saying that those people planted it, but out of logical conclusion, that would be what the average person deduces from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thinking about that, it makes you think that in concert halls, there's videos of people just going, huh? Nah, next.
Right,
Nah,
yeah.
nah,
They're just
next.
cheap.
It's like one of those dudes could have a
Yeah.
bomb that blows out the entire stadium.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like thinking about that, I guess that does make sense, especially with the sensationalism in movies, in American movies. I mean, if you think about it, American movies are like that. It's like the guy that takes the situation under control, handles it all, kills 15 terrorists and saves the woman from a gorilla. You know, it's like that sort of thing.
Pretty
But it's
much.
like when you when you do that, it's like, I guess you idolize this idea of like, I am the man, I need to do this thing and I need to do it now or else everyone dies. And it's like, no, there's situations like these where like you
Yeah.
feel helpless. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
So you go in a McDonald's and you finish your homework after a guy with a mask just saved you from a bombing.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like my only reaction that I could have done. I don't know. It was.
Do you ever look back and think, oh, I should have done something else. Like I should have been a hero or whatever.
I mean, there's like, I don't know. I think whenever we think about shootings or whatever, we're always like, oh, if I was there, you know, yeah.
Not even.
Then
not even
I
guns.
would follow the video game logic. I would pull out
played
like
Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I have 2 point
I
something.
would throw my
Jump
bag
shot.
at him, punch him. No, I like, of course I've always like had those ideas like, oh yeah, no, I would be the one that saves everyone, but in that moment everyone's just
Helpless.
that's when people just show their
'Cause at one-
full like
yeah.
natural
Because at one
reaction.
point reality just hits in and you're like, shit, this is not like in
Like,
my
this is a
mind.
life
This
or
is
death
like, I can
situation.
actually die right now.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
But did anything actually occur
No,
that day?
no.
So it was just a fear.
It was
that
one
guy-
single bomb, and that was it.
So you're making it sound like one single bomb.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
one
but it's
single
still like
bomb?
yeah,
Right.
it's
I mean, that's still. I mean, like literally, that's also part of it. Like, I still think that, like, oh, it's just one guy that brought a bomb, but still, the fact that someone wanted to bomb a train station is
spiteful,
insane.
hatred, and,
Yeah, I
like,
don't know.
There's so much
Yeah.
emotion wrapped around an event like that,
Yeah.
but yet it's, as you said, I mean, Eminem had to come out and make a song about it. Like, it's like about how it's like people look at the shooters, they look at the people, and there's like, oh, what could be his motive? But by the time it's over, it won't make
done,
any
yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's like, what do you care about that guy having PTSD? Ultimately, he blew up a house with like what 50 people in it. It's like he's still a mass murderer and he's still a terrorist. I don't
No.
care if but he never bought. He had no weed conviction.
There's always
It's like that, I don't
they
care.
always interview the people, and they're like, I would have never suspected him.
But he seemed like such a nice
And
guy.
he seemed like such a nice guy.
He did his lawn every Sunday at 2 p.m.
But I don't know. I feel like we kind of sensationalize and make them not people, but in the end of the day, they're people. They have their reasons why they.
But do you think
come
they
to this
actually
point.
have some? I mean, I believe that some people just don't have any reason.
Right. I don't know. I mean, there's always a reason. It's either how they've been brought up to, I don't know, if their parents were abusive to them and they just didn't have love in their
No, yeah,
childhood.
yeah.
I mean, you kind of forget that how to empathize with people and how to put yourself in in someone else's shoes. And that's something that like everyone learns when they're a kid, right? Like you're supposed to, those are like values that are put in front of you, but
Yeah.
Cartoons, they teach a lot of values.
but there's also like the whole value of like, oh yeah, you should put yourself first. And like, I don't know, there's a lot of mixed messages that I can see someone who's already dealing with mental health can misinterpret differently or wrong.
I mean, look, about misinterpreting information. I mean,
Yeah.
Peppa Pig took a blow simply because she spoke about spiders in a nice
Yeah.
way. So, I mean, hey,
Yeah.
what do we know?
Yeah.
It's
I
about
don't know.
how the audience interprets
Yeah.
reality and how we
No.
perceive. But am I incorrect in assuming that we have run out of time?
Yeah.
Unfortunately so, but thank you guys for participating in the game.
Thank you
And thank
very
you
much.
so much for the podcast and sharing your... I'm blown away, but now I'm going to shiver all my way home. Because it's like, jeez, for real. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I went to a dark topic.
It's
I
just
don't
a
know.
reality, and we
Yeah.
have to
It is
acknowledge
reality.
these things.
I mean, I also want to talk about other like
But that's
more
an
positive
occasion.
things, but
That's
you
an
know.
occasion for another later
Yeah,
episode.
sure.
But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching, and like and subscribe and do all that thing that you guys do. And if you have any comments, I will make sure to lead them right your way in case they have any questions for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And ultimately, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for
Yeah.
coming.
Can they
here.
find you anywhere? Do you want anywhere to be found?
Yeah, I've been doing Twitch. I don't know. It's not. It's still. I'm still like bringing it up, but I'm about to hit affiliate, which is already a big deal in my
Hey.
opinion.
Well, it will be linked down in the
Yeah,
description.
TonyBoy13.
Tony
Make
Boy
sure to check
13.
it out. And for
Season
now, ladies
two.
and gentlemen, I will leave it at that. Thank you for joining us, and until next time.